I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate. Sections 15 and 17 of Title III of the United States Code require that any objection be presented in writing, signed by both a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and not only signed by the member but by a United States senator?
Mr. President, even as people waited hours in Georgia...
There is no debate. And if there's not signed by a senator, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, the objection is signed by a member of the House, but not yet by a member of the Senate.
Well, it is over.
In 2017, then Vice President Joe Biden denied opposition to the Electoral College vote from several members of his own party, certifying then President-elect Trump's victory in the 2016 election. Now, 4 years later, President Trump is applying pressure to Vice President Mike Pence to not certify the election results. Earlier, Mr. Trump took to Twitter saying, quote, "If Vice President Mike Pence comes through for us, we will win the presidency. Many states want to decertify the mistake they made in certifying incorrect and even fraudulent numbers in a process not approved by their state legislatures. Mike can send it back." By the way, this tweet was flagged by Twitter for a disputed claim about election fraud. The vice president has historically overseen the certification of the electoral vote count. In 2001, then Vice President Al Gore was forced to certify and announce the results of the 2000 election, in which he lost in dramatic fashion to then Texas Governor George W. Bush.
George W. Bush of the state of Texas has received for President of the United States 271 votes. Al Gore of the state of Tennessee has received 266 votes. May God bless our new president and our new vice president, and may God bless the United States of America.
Richard Briffault is a professor of legislation at Columbia Law School, and he joins me now. Professor, welcome. Great to have you with us. So, President Trump has been suggesting that Vice President Mike Pence has the power to reject electors from several key states. Let's listen.
And I hope Mike Pence comes through for us, I have to tell you. I hope that our great vice president comes through for us. He's a great guy. Of course, if he doesn't come through, I won't like him quite as much. No, Mike is a great guy. He's a wonderful man and a smart man and a man that I like a lot. But he's going to have a lot to say about it.
So please set the record straight for us. What legal power does the vice president actually have over the outcome of the electoral vote? And what is President Trump really asking of him?
Vice president has absolutely no power over the count of the electoral vote. The vice president's role is largely to preside, to hand the ballots over to the tellers, and to read the results. And he manages the process. He doesn't have a substantive part. If the vice president had a substantive part, Al Gore might be president, because Al Gore could have made himself president. The vice president has no substantive role in the counting of the electoral votes. The vice president just presides and resides over the process.
And so what is the president asking of him, essentially?
He's actually asking the vice president to violate his oath of office. He's asking the vice president to act illegally. And worse than illegally, unconstitutionally, in a way that violates the very structure of the presidential selection process. It is sort of profoundly wrong.
And so, Professor, at least 13 Republican senators have said they would follow through on the president's calls to try and overturn President-elect Biden's victory today. On what legal grounds do they think this challenge is justified?
It's not clear what they think it's justified on different. They're relying on some general idea that there was something wrong with the election of the electors in some of these contested states. Now, there have been something like 60 lawsuits, all of which resolved in favor of the electors who were chosen, actually having been chosen, that rejected all the claims of fraud and misconduct and rigged ballots. at least 60 different lawsuits, federal courts, state courts, appointed judges, elected judges, Republican judges, Democratic judges. But there is some notion out there that the president has emphasized that there was something wrong with the electoral process that led to the selection of these electors. And that's what the disgruntled Republicans in the House and now the dozen in the Senate are raising this issue.
And Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe has opposed the challenge, saying that given the specificity of the Constitution, it would, quote, be a violation of my oath of office to not certify the vote. What does the Constitution state about challenging the Electoral College vote?
The Constitution doesn't have any precise details. Between the Constitution and the relevant laws, you can only object if you think that the electors either were improperly elected or an elector once elected did something improper. There's no claim that the electors themselves are acting improperly. So it all goes back to the question of whether or not the electors were improperly selected. And that goes back to the fact that all the states certified that these electors won. And each one of them has been challenged, I don't know, as I say, cumulatively about 60 times. And every single time a court has rejected as unsubstantiated without any backup, any of the evidence. So it would be a violation of your oath of office, I think, or at least as it would be a violation of the system the Constitution sets up. The president is chosen by the people acting through the Electoral College. The Congress is given no substantive role. The only thing here would be if you could show that there was a mistake, a fraud or a mistake made in the selection of these electors. And 60 courts over the past 2.5 months have rejected that.
So do you think that today's proceedings will be setting any dangerous precedents going forward?
I think it already has. Is the idea we're in a situation now where there's a significant, the president of the United States, a significant chunk of his party, and maybe many people think that some crime has been committed just because they lost. The essence of a democracy is that there are going to be a popular self-rule, is there going to be winners and losers. And the losers have to accept that they lost after they've been given an opportunity to make their case in court if they have a case to make. And what you're really seeing here is it's the equivalent of a kid losing a ball game, picking up the ball and wanting to go home. It really is quite a challenge to the whole idea of self-government to think that it's not possible for me. If I've lost, there must have been a crime committed. Sometimes you lose. And the vote suggests that this time Trump lost.